Hello and welcome to Legalbytes. If you're new here, my name is Alita. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC, and on this channel, we explain the law one bite at a time. We don't give legal advice, but we do talk about how the law works and try to look into our crystal ball to see how things might turn out. If you're enjoying this on YouTube, we'd love it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, all the great YouTube-y stuff. And if you want to listen while out and about, we're now offering our live streams in podcast form where you can leave a rating and review. Links are in the description below, as well as to our clips channel where you can find some of the best clips taken from our live streams. Otherwise, if you want to catch me elsewhere, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so on Locals, Patreon, or by becoming a YouTube member, or by buying some really awesome Legalbytes merch. Again, all links are in the description below. And with that said, let's get into it. All right, let's just belly flop right on into it.
Yes. Yeah.
How you doing today, Rick? How's it going?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing, Alita?
Doing well. We have a hatless Rick out
I
in
know.
the wild.
I knew this would throw people off. I apologize for changing your world state. I just got a haircut today. I like to show it off on day one. We'll be back to hats after that.
All right, sounds great. And also joining us is Sean from Potentially Criminal. How's it going, Sean?
Good. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, doing well. I'm really excited for you to be here to talk about the Mario Batali case because I know that you were actually observing that trial that happened this past week.
Yes.
Or last week. This week, last week?
This week. It was Monday, Tuesday.
Every week is last week.
Yes. Yeah, it was an interesting trial to say the least.
Yeah. So we've got some really great topics today to talk about. And I'm so excited to see this many people in the chat right now. I know it's not Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, but I kind of wanted to take a chance to show some content that is not Johnny Depp and Amber Heard so people can kind of see what the normal stuff looks like when we're not doing trials all day, all night, 24/7.
Your life's never going to be normal again, Alita. Come on.
I know. But yeah, so we've got some good stuff. I mean, usually this is what we do once a week on here is a show I like to call Latest in the Law, where I take a few topics, 2 to 4, usually averages around to 3, and we talk about several different things that are going on in the law. Some of them I'm going to be catching up on stream. So the Kardashian versus or Blac Chyna versus the Kardashians is one that I've read a little bit on, but admittedly, we're going to go through it together. I think is probably how we're gonna go about it. I think everyone kind of understands, what I've been doing, what I've been up to lately. But
lazy developers, as they say in my neck of the woods in video game industry. You haven't been doing anything.
Lazy YouTuber. Hey, Lawn Lumber, thanks for the super chat.
How is he in every stream? I have this image of Rob having 9 videos up at once and just selecting where he chats. Yes, actually, Rob, I appreciate you inquiring on this. This is how I'm going to communicate to the world that I'm under duress and that I'm in a hostage situation. You see that on social media from time to time. If the hat is gone, you can be worried. No. Just haircut day.
Yeah. And Laura Smart says we need to see that the hat is okay. We've got to make sure. Is the hat okay? Or is the hat under duress? Is more important.
I didn't even look. I don't know. I'll have to go look later.
Exactly. Eric Franklin, thank you so much. Oh yeah, she's back. We are back with a live stream. And also, on the note of super chats, I've got some leftover from yesterday's discussion with Dr. Honda and Dr. Tracy. So I still have those in reserve. I will be doing that maybe at the end of this or something, perhaps, after we get all of our topics, but I'm going to see how much time this takes. And then otherwise, we will be, otherwise I might schedule that for later on today. But yeah, I want to do those today. Sooner rather than later. And Moby says, hopefully the power will stay on. That is always my hope.
I'm ready for Alita's power situation now. I've got some comments. I've got some materials to bring up. We're going to be good.
Exactly. Perfect. So anyhow, let's talk about it. What should we, since we've got Sean here, let's talk about the Mario Batali case.
Alita, I'm sorry. I've got another attorney calling me. I really need to take this.
Hey, you got to practice law. It's totally fine.
Sorry.
We'll talk about Trevor Bauer first, and then we can come back to you when you want to come back. So let's talk about Trevor Bauer. For anybody that is not familiar, he is a baseball player in the Major League Baseball, in Major League Baseball, I should say, the MLB. And he is a pitcher for the Dodgers, which is my favorite team, the team
Is that
that I've
right?
been rooting for. Yes, yes.
Okay.
I come from a long tradition of Dodgers fans. Even my grandmother was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan in New York. Apparently a really
Brooklyn
big one
Dodgers,
too.
old school. All right. Yes.
Yes,
Well, you
all
and my
the
wife
way
will get
in.
along because I get a lot of Dodgers updates and paraphernalia here.
Yes. Yeah. So anyhow, so he has been suspended from the MLB for it's like 324 games. Yeah, which is also known as 2 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a long time. And so the reasons for the suspension are going to be well, we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it. So basically what happened is he has a number of accusations against him for DV type claims. Specifically, we'll call it rough intercourse is the way that we'll label it. But basically, women saying that they did not consent to a certain level of activity as what ended up happening in that case. So, but at this point, there are no charges that have been filed against him. There's no investigation that he's under. In fact, there was one woman who tried to file for a temporary restraining order. She did not get one because the court looked at all of the evidence, looked at the medical records that she had attached. She alleged that she had a cracked skull from the incident. Medical records said no. She had an MRI. They suggested no, you did not have a cracked skull. They also found text messages that she had sent back and forth between friends, basically saying, yeah, let's get famous. I'm paraphrasing, from the findings, but basically saying like, yeah, I want to take this guy down, and yeah, kind of like I'm excited to get attention for myself through this, essentially. So, considering all of that, the judge said, no, you don't get a temporary restraining order. In fact, it kind of sounds like he needs a restraining order against you based on what I'm seeing here. So very, very interesting that has all kind of come to light in recent. I don't know. I can't remember exactly when she tried to get the TRO, but he also has a couple defamation cases against some publications. The Athletic is one of them, and I can't remember the other one. Maybe Deadline. But basically, for running with this cracked skull story without doing their due diligence, essentially, and in at least one case, having referenced the medical records that she attached to her TRO, which has the MRI, which says, no, you didn't have a cracked skull. So those are very interesting cases too. But basically what the MLB has decided is that because there are these allegations against him for these kind of DV claims, that they have decided to give him a suspension under their personal conduct policy. Usually under the MLB, NFL, NBA, that usually has to do with some sort of an act of moral depravity. So we've seen Michael Vick in the NFL get suspended for dogfighting. We've seen Ray Rice, also from the NFL, get suspended for there was an elevator video showing him assaulting his girlfriend. I
was going to say with those two though, Michael Vick also, they actually indicted and went after him, and Ray Rice, we actually had video of it. So I'd say those two are probably different than most of the other allegations.
Yes. Yeah. So that is, and I was going to point that out too, to say these other cases that but I'm glad that you jumped in with that because these are all cases, a lot of these, at least the ones in the NFL, have been cases where there's been a lot of evidence kind of showing like incontrovertible evidence to show okay, these are things that are actually very provable. And there are actual criminal charges that would have been filed. The MLB has had a number of DV suspensions, but the longest one before this, this is the longest suspension that the MLB has given to any player for DV kind of cases. 2 years is a lot. The previous one was 1 year. That was free agent pitcher Sam Dyson, who was given a 1-year ban for DV, and that was apparently his long-term girlfriend accused him of verbal, emotional, and physical abuse. There was no charge of a crime, or there was no crime charged against him as well, similar to Trevor Bauer, but he never appealed his suspension. And before that, we've got from the San Diego Padres relief pitcher Jose Torres.
he got a suspension that was even less. It was 100 games, and he was actually charged for assault for a deadly weapon for allegedly brandishing a handgun against his wife. Previous to that, in 2016, the MLB suspended Atlanta Braves infielder Hector Olivera for 82 games. And he had actually served a prison sentence for misdemeanor assault and battery. So it seems like what has been happening here is the MLB is responding to a lot of the cultural changes that have been happening by giving greater punishments. Like the two that I just listed, the Jose Torres and Hector Olivera, probably should have had longer suspensions at that time. They were like 2016, I think 2017 when those things happened. So pre-Me Too. And so I think that what they're trying to do is sort of respond with more serious penalties against these guys for these kinds of cases. But I think that what this, to me personally, looks like, at least the number of games here is probably a little bit of an overcorrection.
I would say. But I feel very strongly about this. And I feel strongly about this not from the perspective of the underlying substance. So that might bother some folks. But I look at this as a collective bargaining agreement problem that the Major League Baseball Association and the Major League Baseball players have as an issue. And I think we've seen this writ large in things that are less serious throughout the various leagues of professional sports in the United States over the past, let's say, decade or so. Most prominently, in my mind, when Roger Goodell just decided to suspend Tom Brady for some very suspicious science on whether or not balls and their inflation levels change depending on outside weather. Pro tip, folks, they do. But the NFL commissioned a very questionable report to suggest that they didn't, because they didn't take the right measurements, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of good documentaries on this, lots of good talk about this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Tom Brady got suspended because Roger Goodell had almost plenary total authority in the collective bargaining agreement to decide on these things. And for the most part, players' associations have agreed to that across leagues. And here we see Trevor Bauer has said, I'm going to appeal this because it's the longest in history. I don't believe it's a reflection of what actually happened here. And that appeal is going to go through a collectively bargained process that isn't just going to be the commissioner, Manfred, deciding again what happened. But this should be a lightning rod in terms of negotiations from the players' levels. This is somebody coming out with a criminal investigation that doesn't not just exist, but is actually dropped. Like everything that's happened on this, because of the text messages, because of the lack of medical foundation, because of all this stuff that happened at the time, all of this was actually looked at. This wasn't something that nobody knew about, that got forgotten, got ignored. This was looked at by the authorities and said, no, there's not enough here. Now, that doesn't bind these leagues. These leagues can say, just like any employer can say, you don't need to go to prison for me to decide I don't like being associated with you, but you still have to have some kinds of standards. And I look at this, and I'm not a big Trevor Bauer fan. I do like he does the thing with a katana when he strikes somebody out, an invisible katana. It's not real, that I enjoy. But I really think that foundationally, this isn't just cultural stuff. This isn't just concern about TV. Trevor Bauer has had issues with the commissioner publicly, angrily, saying he's a bad commissioner, saying he's taking baseball in the wrong direction, being very vociferous about these positions. And if I'm looking at this objectively from a third-party perspective, and I'm not my wife, I'm not Alita, I'm not a Dodger fan, I'm a Tiger fan. We're not going to be in anything ever for the next decade.
Hey, you never know. You never know.
I appreciate the optimism.
I mean, Detroit Tigers have made it to the postseason several times in recent years.
I think in this last week, we scored 0 runs in 6 straight games, something like that. In any event, that notwithstanding,
maybe give it a few seasons.
Tigers, hear the roar. I think that this is emblematic of commissioners in all these leagues that have taken on this very discretionary power, been protected in large parts by the appeals courts. That, Brady and the Players Association, the NFL, tried to appeal that particular situation and said, well, you bargained for Tyrant King. You got a Tyrant King. Sorry. Now, at least the Players Association here has an arbitrator, but I really think that they said 2 years so it can be 1. I mean, you talk about this in negotiations and you say, all right, 2 seasons is crazy. You talk us down to 1. Okay. That's what we wanted anyway, really. And Trevor Bauer, by the way, right now is not getting credit for the fact that he was pulled from the team and put on the reserve list because of this. I want to say 1/4 of the way through this last season. Like, he's already been out 3/4 of a season. He's not getting credit He does not get credit. You want to talk about terrible incentives? He does not get credit for those games that he missed, primarily because he does not accept the suspension that the commissioner put on him. Accept it, plea bargain it, and you could maybe get credit for those games. It's like, my God in heaven. What a process.
That's like this chat right here. Colin Ciapiella says, Hogue, the issue is also that he was suspended essentially all season last year. He's getting 2 years on top of that.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And he's been kind of held under this cloud for the whole past year. And he's a star pitcher. Like Dodgers paid a lot of money for him.
He is a star. He he either won a Cy Young or he's been nominated for one. He's a star.
Yeah, he's and Dodgers paid a pretty
This is
penny
why
for him.
Cleveland traded him. He got out of Cleveland when he did.
Yeah. Cleveland made out like bank if he's going to go and implode and fight the commissioner. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, arguably the Dodgers have money to pay for him, but because they are one of the big money teams nowadays, haven't always been that way. So I remember many years where the Dodgers were struggling because, you know, there was a married couple that was squabbling and, you know, destroying the team in the midst of a divorce.
I heard a lot about this from my father-in-law. Yes.
Yes, exactly. All the more reason why I feel like I can get along with your family, Rick.
I think you do just fine.
But yeah, it's a really crazy situation, and I know that, you know, he's also got a lot of tweets that he's a very he can be a very polarizing character in the way that he conducts himself on social media, but that is not what this case is about, really.
Shouldn't be about.
Well, it's okay. Yeah, good point. Exactly. Very good point. It's not what this case should be about. But one of the things that is an interesting twist in this case that is very fortunate for Trevor Bauer, as opposed to if he were an NFL player in the same kind of position, is the fact that the collective bargaining agreements in baseball tend to be much stronger for the players than they are in the NFL and probably the NBA as well. Like I know this historically has been the case. I can't remember exactly how this developed, like as these sports developed over time in the United States, but basically like they had enough power to really argue for better positions for themselves. And this is one of the reasons why baseball players tend to make a lot more money than NFL players, NBA players, overall, I would say. But here, what he can do, so when a player is suspended in the MLB, they have the ability to appeal to a neutral arbitrator, and it is up to the commissioner to prove that the suspension is proper, both because of the allegations and because of the amount of time that they are suspended. So there are multiple ways that Trevor can fight against this, basically. And so it's going to be interesting to see, you know, that personal vendetta that it seems like is playing out by the commissioner, to see like how much can he really justify this, or is it going to be enough for him just to see Trevor Bauer kind of struggling for a period of time before he gets reinstated? Because realistically, like what's he going to do now? You know, like what can he do in the meantime?
Yeah, well, his suspension as it stands is worth more than the Depp Heard trial, I think, in its entirety. Maybe it's one of those things where it's so painful, and it's such if we're giving full credit to the commissioner, and we've skipped it for the YouTube bots and things like that, the specifics here. Yeah. But I think you described it well, which is that he had people in various towns that he would contact, and he would have escalating violent relations with them that he believes were consented to, give or take. And there's a disagreement there. You're never going to really get terribly great information on that sequence outside of text messages and things like that. So, I mean, there's no clearing the name here. So he's already been dragged through the mud. You feel however you feel about Trevor Bauer at this point in time. He's already lost 3/4 of a season. He's scheduled to lose 2 more. I really do think that they'll wind up with 1 year as a suspension, but I also don't have quite as optimistic a take on neutral arbitration through a collectively bargained agreement, because for the most part, the person that's playing the game more often is the league itself. And the arbitrators know that when they're getting selected for these purposes. So they're neutral, but they might be neutral in name only. So I have issues with all of this, as you could probably tell.
That's a fair point.
But I want justice. I want redress. I want these things handled. But it's just so random when you see the actual legal process say there's not enough here to say anything about what happened with respect to Trevor Bauer. And then, Rob Manfred just say, fine, 2 years. It's his livelihood. I mean, it's what he does. He throws a ball well. And if you take that away, 2 years in his prime, coming off a Cy Young year.
That's another thing too, is that like, you know, when we're talking about, we've been talking obviously a lot about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, you know, taking away. Hey, Kurt, how's it going?
Hey, Kurt.
Great.
So we've been talking about the Trevor Bauer MLB suspension. So, you know, talking about, you know, an actor like Johnny Depp, who has been in movies for so long, he probably will be able to come out of this, you know, assuming that what I'm looking at on social media with all of the memes that have been coming out that have been supportive of Johnny Depp are, you know, something that is revealing enough for it. It seems to me like he's probably going to be able to come back with some sort of a film renaissance coming out of this, at least for a period of time. But like, you know, it's one thing for an actor, right? Like especially a male actor, they don't really have so many concerns like female actors often do when they're getting into their 30s and 40s and they're starting to age, and then they start getting placed in like only the mom or the grandma role. you know, like they're no longer leading ladies very often in these cases. Anyhow, but yeah, so in baseball, you're absolutely right. Like he's at the prime of his life. They can only last for so long. Now in baseball, they do tend to last longer than, let's say, in football. But like, but still, I mean, that's that, and especially now that we've had a lot of advancements over time, like Tommy John surgery, a pitcher has a much longer, you could say, shelf life in the MLB because of those kinds of developments. But still, like these are years in which he would otherwise be productive and would be able to make the money that he's going to be making in, you know, throughout his career.
Yeah.
So anyhow, Michelle087, thanks for your super chat. She says, hello from Los Angeles. This is quickly becoming my favorite channel. Great content. Keep up the good work. Thank you. And also let me get a few more of these here. Lawn Lumber, 3 monitors. It's like background music to drafting, pleadings, and discovery responses. My ADHD needs multiple things going on at once. It's calming. I totally understand that. Thanks, Rob. Rick Cormier says, where's Hogue? I see his name, but that dude has no hat, so it cannot be Rick. No hat, Rick. Bogey34 says, MLB has to be watching JD for how Bauer will go. And Bogey34 says,
I like that comment.
I think that's very possible.
I think so too, because you know, a lot of people, this is a hot topic right now. DV, defamation, you know, like the swift action against these people in the face of an allegation. I absolutely agree. I think that this is one of those things that is absolutely has the potential to change the way that other industries are also looking at the way that they deal with these kinds of claims.
It really is. And I was saying this to Alita in the pre-show, but I went and got a haircut today. Thanks all for noticing. I appreciate it. And I have never been so fascinating to the haircut people at the establishment than when I mentioned that I was on Legalbytes and we were talking about Depp v. Heard. I have never had conversations like that in that space. The country is crazy for this stuff right now, or maybe just specifically for Alita. Hard to separate. But it is a big.
I think it's more the case than anything.
Did they say, you know, Alita, what's she like behind the scenes? Is she Kurt, someone at the salon was already watching Legalbytes and asked me about her. Yes. Wow.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
I'm not kidding.
You know, actually, so the other day I was on Speedify's channel for a live stream interview with them, and beforehand backstage they had some of the folks that work for Speedify. They kind of popped in and were like, "Hey, I just wanted to say hi. Like, we've been watching all your stuff. We're such big fans." And like one of them was like, "I'm in a walking group, and like, you know, I know a judge who's been watching your stuff." And I was like, "No way, that's crazy."
See, we're on with celebrity now, Kurt.
I no. It's not that. It's not me. It's the trial. It's 100% trial.
We'll see.
You know,
I have some theories.
I was going to say, Alita, it's especially in like the whole Johnny Depp thing. You know, I feel like it's in a way it's going to be good for, you know, especially if you have like arbitration contracts or things like that. The employer or the organization's almost going to have to basically perform the trial themselves. This arbitrator, hey, we're basically going to have to prove that he did this, which I think in a way is good, but also I think given the way Johnny Depp's going to pan out on the inverse, that could cause problems where if you can't prove it, you're going to have to let potentially sketchy people run around in your organizations. And I can see that also being a potential issue for some of these organizations going down the road.
Yeah. I mean, and this is one of those things too that is very interesting in talking about employment law for cases of sexual harassment. I've I've done employment litigation before, not on the defense side. So, I haven't looked at it so much from the perspective of like, what kind of investigations need to be done by these employers. I mean, other than looking at it with a critical eye from the plaintiff's perspective to say, no, you didn't do enough in your investigation, or no, like your investigation actually turned out to be retaliation against this person who made the accusation.
A lot of the arbitration stuff, that's going to be private. You're not necessarily going to be able to look into what happened or what they tried to present.
Yeah, and that's another detail here that I actually am unsure about. I don't know if this independent arbitrator can be appealed to the regular court system or not, because I know
Almost never.
Sometimes that's possible, but no, you don't think so?
Yeah, I don't think with the MLB.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's always a check for whether they followed the contours of the arbitration or the collectively bargained agreement, but you're going to lose. I mean, like that's what we saw with Tom Brady.
Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we saw with the Tom Brady case that I was talking about, which is you went and you tried to have it appealed, and they said you asked for a tyrant king, you got a tyrant king. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, let me get some more of these super chats. Julia Kostyakova, looking great, Rick. New haircut. You've got a lot of folks noticing your haircut today. It's great.
I appreciate it.
Mad Woman with a Box. Where's Papa Hogue today?
I don't know. I didn't text him that I was on here. He might not. I might be secretly operating today. We'll see if he pops in.
Oh, by the way, it's my parents' 49th wedding anniversary today. So
happy wedding
anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Amazing.
Congrats. That's a long time.
That is a very long time. And I'm sure that they could give us all advice on relationships and marriage and whatnot if they've been able to stick it through for 49 years. That's fantastic.
When I called my mom, she said they were sitting at the table having coffee, discussing whether they wanted to give it another year a try. I'm like, great. That's great.
I understand where you got your sense of humor. Janet Dick says, I did not even recognize Hogue. I heard his voice, but didn't register he could not have a hat. Ezgi Sumer says, hi from Turkey. So glad I found your channel. Yes, I'm so happy you're here too. Benjamin Too Good says, Mr. Optimism in the house. Might be a bunny says, Alita, sorry if I spelled that wrong. No worries. I came for the Depp trial. I'm staying for you. Love you and your channel. Awesome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Knocking down microphones.
There you go. And this last one, Bogey34 wants to know, why did the MLB wait till he's publicly exonerated? That's a very interesting thing too, right? Like it seems like they just decided to wait for.
I'll tell you this. They wanted the cover of him not being exonerated. They wanted to be able to do this with the reason, look at what law enforcement did. We are protecting our people under our 2015 policy. Aren't we great? And they didn't get it, and they went in anyway.
Well, was he actually exonerated, or they just say we declined to prosecute?
Yes,
they said we declined to prosecute because there's not enough there, and the at least one woman has filed for a TRO who has not. Yeah. The court actually said, no, he probably should get a TRO against you.
Yeah. I mean,
it was that bad.
Nobody gets exonerated.
TRO granted in reverse.
Well, yeah, that's why I was going to say for Bogey, this isn't like exoneration. That just means we're not really sure we want to prosecute this. And yeah, it looks kind of sketchy, but I mean, generally exoneration's like, you shouldn't have been sent to prison for 40 years. Sorry, our bad. You were probably innocent.
No.
That's more of exoneration.
I mean, getting kicked out of a TRO is pretty. I mean,
I agree, but I would say that exoneration is not necessarily that. I think
I will concur that word is inapplicable.
It's maybe not the most accurate word to use for this particular situation, but exonerated. If he was actually charged and put on trial, and a jury said no, you're not guilty. I guess that would be technically, as if we're going to be lawyers about it. That's how we would.
Well, I just think it's important because that is actually, one TRO went down in flames, but that doesn't necessarily mean the other ones would. I think.
I think all of it is partially a face-saving exercise, because if the MLB or Hollywood just kind of reverses themselves, they have to eat crow. If they can say, well, the reason we're doing it is because, the courts have spoken, then they get to save a little face and not look like complete incompetence, just partially incompetence. So that's part of the reason, I think.
Well, and this is also happening in the face of what we're watching with Deshaun Watson. right? So Deshaun Watson has technically, I think, 22 cases against him
Yup.
for maybe doing bad things with therapists, but they're having a heck of a time. And that's an interesting sports case in of itself, because the actual plaintiffs there were solicited by social media posts that there's a specific lawyer in Texas that was going and grabbing plaintiffs, and they're having their own trouble there. They got kicked out of a freaking grand jury. They dismissed like 9 separate attempts accounts there. So, I mean, there's just a lot of weird stuff. And in that case, the NFL hasn't moved yet against Deshaun Watson, and they might still, but they allowed a major trade to go through.
No, Rick, please don't say that. Don't say that. Don't ruin things for me.
I don't want to. I mean, I don't have good news for you for Roger Goodell's judgment. I'm very sorry to say, but yeah. Yeah. All right. I will, in the interest of not having anybody implode on the panel, I'm sure everything will be fine with the Deshaun Watson trade.
Thank you.
Oh man. And I see also that we're getting some super chats asking about Johnny Depp. So I'm gonna hold those for when we do a little bit of a transition here. But yeah, no, don't worry, guys. I'm saving them, so I will for sure be getting to all of them as well. But yeah, I mean, so this whole case is going to be really, really interesting to go over. Also, I've done one deep dive on one of the defamation complaints that Trevor Bauer filed against that. It was the one against The Athletic, and I had a live stream with Mark Robert, who has done a lot of stuff with Eric Hunley on their channel that they run together, America's Untold Stories. So I'm definitely looking forward to having him back to do some more deep dives on this Trevor Bauer case, because he's also a Dodgers fan, so it's also kind of fun to talk about this case with him. But yeah,
Longhorns and Dodgers are going to be invited on.
No, not the case. We
already got Wolverines. Wolverines are already covered here. Go blue.
Oh, nice. And Law School Grit says, Alita, is this nice even off screen? Nicole, yes. I've chatted with Nicole. She's helping me out over the summer. She's a law school student, and so she's interning with me a little bit. I'm very excited. So yeah, she's really great too. Nice to see you, Nicole. So anyhow, let's transition over to I'm going to answer some of these super chats first, and then we'll transition to the next story. So Isamella says, "Is it May 16th yet?" I know, right? We're waiting for it. I have so many friends that have also gotten just like, casual friends of mine from before YouTube life, who have like texted me and have been like, I really need to see this cross of Amber Heard. I really need to see it. Like, can it just happen already? It's really funny. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Alla D Dam, I think. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Says UK independent reporting that Whitney is testifying. Also, why can't Amber Heard's deposition footage be shown in cross? So I have seen the reporting that Whitney will likely be testifying. I don't know if it'll be a limited testimony because of her deposition that she didn't complete. They also have the UK testimony that they can use to impeach her on, to cross-examine her on. So, there's that possibility. Maybe that's why ultimately they're letting her in, to say, okay, well, maybe she didn't sit for the deposition, but you do have stuff that you can use for a cross-examination. Maybe, possibly, but we'll see. We'll see. And then why can't Amber Heard's deposition footage be shown in cross? So the reason why you would be able to use any deposition footage in general would be because the witness is unavailable in court. So because she's there sitting there, the preference is to get the testimony directly from her. Now they could use testimony, generally speaking, from her deposition for the purposes of impeachment. So if something that she says in the witness stand is different from what she said previously during a deposition, they'd be able to use that. Now, before Amber Heard, there have been some impeachments from prior statements that have been done. We've been pointing those out as they've been happening throughout this trial over the last month plus. But typically the way that they've presented those statements has been through a transcript from the deposition. So my guess is that the court probably has said, yes, of course you can use these for impeachments, but you've got to use the transcript as opposed to the deposition footage. That's my guess. I'm I'm guessing on that. I don't know if they've had like a particular agreement on that, but it would be very powerful to be able to use that for impeachment purposes because her tone is different, her posture is different, everything about it is different.
She's telling the same stories. Are facts consistent? Don't tell me too much, but the tone and manner is different. But
there have been no
She
there.
didn't look
I
very
think
pleasant
there.
that
Yeah, she doesn't look pleasant. She looks very aggressive, and that on its own is a lot to
Yes.
really point out to the jury to be like, hey, yeah, by the way, this is a very
Yeah, because she
aggressive,
just-
dramatic, exaggerative woman.
Yeah.
well, she
Yeah,
just told that whole
so-
story as essentially collapsing in on herself like a dying star, as barely holding it together emotionally. So if there's I mean, man, I might fight for that video if it shows her as being completely different years ago on the same stories that were years before.
Yeah.
That's pretty impeachment worthy to me.
But impeachment has to be a prior and consistent statement,
Yeah,
though.
it's gotta be
So
factually-
it's not just tone. You can't. Tone
Yeah.
isn't enough for an impeachment.
Mhm.
You know, but she has made some statements already that I believe are inconsistent with other statements that she's previously made. I mean, she also has made inconsistent statements in the past, just comparing them to each other. So it's like, which one? Take your pick. You know, which one do you want to compare it against? So there are a lot of those, but I mean, I agree. I would, if I'm Johnny's attorney, I would love to bring in those video depositions because of how damaging it would be for Amber to show that other side of her, that super aggressive, intense side where she's like leaning forward, almost looking like she's like trying to attack the attorney that's asking her questions.
Oh yeah, she got very combative too at times.
That's interesting to me. I mean, I yield to the litigators on that because, you know, the reason we have witnesses in court and that you do these things is so that the jury can evaluate things like tone and body language. So I guess I think you're right, having gone through evidence. But I guess I feel like there is impeachment value in saying that these are wildly different approaches to the same testimony that you just heard. And especially when they just tried to present as effectively emotionally broken, most recent to you, and isn't 2 years ago or what have you, that would be something I would want to know as a juror in terms of evaluating the veracity of the statements before me. But
Yeah.
I hear you on it's not actually different words necessarily.
Yeah. Milkmaster says, I don't get this whole week break in the JD trial. Couldn't it be a super bad thing given the jurors a week to be exposed to the media? It's just a requirement for all of the judges, including Judge Escarati in all of Virginia. So there's nothing that she could do about it, presumably. But I agree. It's definitely a risk that they could be exposed to the media. It's a very serious risk. It's a possibility.
Yes. The judges' CLEs are a bigger concern than this trial.
I mean, I guess this is a very unusual trial, right? This is blown up way past even what I would have predicted in terms of seeing it everywhere in any context. You see references to it when you're reading a freaking video game preview. I mean, like it's everywhere. And so I do have significant concerns that you can't actually avoid it for 10 days if you're just living in the world.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Epic Sin of Wonkru says, do you think if Disney went back to JD now that he should even consider it? To me, it's a spit in the face. Depends on what they would offer.
How many alpacas?
And how many
$2 million alpacas.
I think
I
actually
think you'll find it's negotiable.
I think so too, and I do think that he was probably when he said that the quote about the millions of like $300 million and a million alpacas.
Yeah.
I think that statement was more a hyperbolic statement in the form that Johnny Depp has said, and maybe he actually means it at this point, but maybe not. I do think that there's a substantial possibility that he could say, okay, I'll come back, but I need full freedom to turn this character into how I envision it, and I need full freedom to see to it that the writing for this character is the way that it should be. Kind of his complaints about what they did to Pirates of the Caribbean by POTC 5, right? So I would imagine like he probably would want to negotiate for like that level of like creative control or something like that. Is maybe.
The problem he has is whether he trusts Disney or not. Because if you go look at the contracts, he has full creative control over 4 and 5, where to go, who the writers are, who the directors are, who the co-stars are. Johnny Depp had full control of that operation. He just didn't like what was coming out of it to some extent, which is fair.
Fair point. Fair point too.
I would insist on a groveling apology from Disney, a very public, very groveling apology, which doesn't seem like the kind of thing they
Disney
would do.
can't give that right now. Disney is.
I'm going to need you to suck it in real deep because it's about to get real bad.
Yeah, their stock price is plummeting. They might do what's necessary.
Oh, that's a fair point too. That is also a fair point.
Well, in that case, what is necessary is they're going to fire Bob Chapek. That's going to happen. But outside of that, I don't know.
Yeah.
We can talk about Disney corporate meanderings as much as you want, Alita. I'm here for it.
Sadie 1964 says, found you because of the trial, coming back for you in the group. Thank you. Awesome. Psycho Deliciota, I like that, says, who is the guy you all refer to as Spidey? Tried searching for him, but Spidey does not come up with his face. Search for the behavioral arts.
Yeah, right.
That is the name of his channel. He also actually has two channels. He also has Spidey Hypnosis. I think that's the name of the first one, and then the behavioral arts. So, but that's the one that's his behavioral analysis channel. So yeah, definitely check him out for sure. He's got some really great stuff.
Spidey to hypnotize me. That could be fun.
Yeah, that could be.
You have to be willing, Kurt.
If you give it a try.
Probably. Alaska Roller says Ozuna was suspended for DV and is playing this year. I feel like Bauer's punishment was so much worse because he exposed the foreign substance issue with pitchers, made MLB look bad.
Yeah, he did. He exposed a lot of things.
Yeah, could be. I mean, he definitely seems to be someone who is disliked by the MLB commissioner. And that can definitely play a role here, it seems like. So hopefully this neutral arbitrator is in fact neutral, and we shall see.
I mean, isn't Ozuna also had his allegations that we already knew about, and they let him play through a World Series, right? I mean, like they've done all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And then Bogey 34 says JD's next movie will be with Gina Carano and Daily Wire.
I can't imagine that's the direction Mr. Johnny Depp is going.
Be hilarious.
I love it. I love it though. I love it.
But
so much potential.
His politics still do not align with Daily Wire.
No, they really don't.
They don't.
That's a joke. That'd be hilarious though.
Maybe he's converted since then because he's seen the awful truth. He's ready to go hard red. MAGA.
I don't know.
Johnny Depp MAGA.
Anyhow, well, let's talk about Mario Batali because I know Sean, you said that you have about 30 minutes. I think you said.
Yeah, about
until you've got to go. Okay, so let's talk about that since while we have you here, Mario Batali it's interesting because it's like I hadn't heard about him for a while, and then all of a sudden I saw that you had DM'd in our group thread about that he was on trial for a couple days, and I was like, wait, what? And then I looked into it, and I was like, oh, this is super interesting.
Yes, it was.
So in 2017, he had a series of sexual misconduct allegations levied against him, including forcible kissing and groping. And so this week, he was on a criminal trial in Boston, facing 2.5 years in prison if he was found to be guilty. He waived his right to a trial by jury, which in his case may be a good idea, it seems like. I mean, it ended up well, right? Because he was acquitted after 2 days of trial. So, what was interesting about this one is that it is a woman who says that she was taking a selfie with him and that he kissed and groped her in all kinds of places on her body, basically pulling her in like that for a selfie. So obviously you have photo evidence, and there was also apparently video evidence that came out of this.
Yes.
And so did you get to see all 2 days of it?
Yes, I did. I saw the whole thing. The problem was the videos and the pictures we weren't able to see them.
Okay.
But I did find like one of those moving picture things you can do with an iPhone, and you can see Batali and this lady, Natalie Teeny, and you can see him from like here up. So you can't see when she claims she's getting groped. You can't see in any of the pictures. But yeah, in the one video, he's kind of like kissing and licking the side of her face like a golden retriever. I mean, he's clearly wasted, and it's not flattering for him.
Okay.
But yeah, there were a ton of issues with those pictures. When it came out on Cross, for example, she admitted that yes, she took a ton of pictures, a ton of selfies, these selfies were over like a 5 or 6 minute time span, and she claims it's going on all the time. Well, she also admitted like she'd take a selfie and look at it, and then she also admitted she was talking with Batali in between some of these pictures, and she claimed she was telling him like to knock it off, but then she'd keep taking pictures with him. The judge in his ruling also commented that I guess some of these pictures show there's actual daylight in between them. You can see the floor in some shots. The pictures alone weren't critical at all. They don't show anything. It was really her testimony that kind of sealed the deal. Sorry, I'll let you stop there.
No. This is
yeah. So this lady, so she was called for jury duty in 2018, and on her jury duty form, because she wanted to get out of jury duty, she wrote down that she's a clairvoyant. And the defense attorney, Batali's attorney is like, you don't really mean that, do you? And she said, oh, no, I'm clairvoyant. Like in trial today, like on Tuesday, she's like, nope, I'm clairvoyant. I really am. I can kind of have a feel for things.
Mhm.
And it was funny because somebody in my chat mentioned, and I thought it was a hilarious argument, if she's clairvoyant, that means she would have known this was going to happen. Does that mean she consented to it if she didn't get out of the way?
Yeah.
That's a joke, guys. It's a joke.
Life advice, not legal advice, but life advice. If you're trying to get out of jury duty, make sure that it's not something that can be brought up in some kind of trial that you become a party or a witness to.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Some people say I'm a little low here. I'll turn that up. And then additionally, a big problem was, and this is something for everybody to remember, they got a hold of, because this is the same attorney handling the civil case for Batali, her text messages going all the way back. They got all of them. And she's talking with her friend. And when she's talking about getting out of jury duty, she's like, LOL, laughing about it. And the funny thing was, she still got on the jury for this trial. It was a criminal trial. And she's talking with her friends about the case, and she does everything you're not supposed to do as a juror. And the attorney brought up, like, did you tell the judge you did this? No. And, every time the judge says, you agree to follow my rules, she was lying. And now her answer was, well, apparently, I guess I was. And he said, it was just awful. She kept imploding from there. It got worse and worse and worse.
Oh, no.
The text messages also include, they're like, who will get some settlement money out of this? And she's like, I'll just take my 10K and go.
Wow.
Oh, no.
So when it came up on cross, and she said, well, I thought that's how celebrities handle this. They just cut you a check and it goes.
Oh, that's never good.
We're still not done. And
oh my God.
This is why I've been working on putting out a recap for it. There's so much cringe. It's taken me a long time.
Oh, I need to see this video on levels. Please make it log in.
Yes, send the link when you have it up, because
I will.
Yeah, I would love to share it.
Might be done today. It's just so much.
Tell me more of the horror show. Please tell me more.
Yes, so it gets even better. He then says, so you lie for fun. You just lie for the lulz. But then she admitted that she lies for money. She had a gym membership, and instead of paying the cancellation fee, she had her mom help fake a lease that showed she was like moving out of town because she didn't want to pay the cancellation fee.
Wow. How did they get that? Like, that's
I don't know. I think this lady's probably enough of an insufferable see you next Tuesday. People drop dimes on her. I don't know. But I'm assuming because he hired a guy from Batali hired a dude from, I think, a good firm. They probably had a PI go dig some stuff up too.
I guess.
But yeah, so that was day one, and it ended. Day two, there was another. Even at that point, at a bench trial, I really, I would have been just screaming and jumping down for a dismissal, but nothing happened. Day two comes on. Her friend that she was texting a lot of this crap to takes a stand. Now, this person wasn't at the thing. She has no personal knowledge. She only has the knowledge that her friend told her about, which blows my mind that they would offer her as a witness, because she has no independent knowledge of the events. And that's usually something when you're putting a witness on the stand,
kind of
short
important.
of a police officer taking, I investigated and filed the report.
Yeah.
There's nothing new. So she gets up and once again they have her text messages, and in there she thinks it's hilarious. She, all the insincerity of the way things went. She also was deposed a couple years ago, and in her deposition, she didn't include that. She never made any mention that her friend disclosed that she had been touched in personal areas. Her breast, her butt, her groin, any of that. She just said she was groped and she was touched, but she never specified how. And once she's being accused of all this, she said, well, my memory is better now than it was then. And it's clear, some of her answers, it's like, well, no, my memory is clear now because I've been able to read it for years and years and years. And her testimony went on for a little while, and then the state rested. That was it. And then Mario rested, and that was a great point. Like, they didn't have to do anything, and I think that was a good idea.
No defense at all. Just where the defense rests.
No.
I love it. I love it so very much. I love it.
Yeah, and
this is
I had
proof.
a lot of people asking
This is proof, man. The
it.
defense does not have to put on a case. The defense can win by doing nothing.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Just let them fail on their own, basically, essentially.
Yes, and it was funny because the prosecutor, I think she was like, she didn't feel like she's like, oh God, I'm being forced to take this crap to court. Like, they were about it. And I don't know how they did that with a straight face because they looked very serious.
Oh no.
Yeah,
no.
but and the judge, and I'm going to just leave it because I won't cover it too much from here. But the judge's ruling on it was very scathing towards the woman, but also he does kind of take a dump on Batali a little bit.
Okay.
Please send me a copy of that decision to my email so I can cover it.
Well, it's just he did it on this. He came back on the bench after 2 hours. He took a nice long lunch and came back and just read out his decision.
Okay.
So it was just read on the record.
I'll cover the video then. I'll cover that. Like, holy shit.
Court TV did cover it with cameras in the courtroom, so there is
Crime
video of it. A long crime as well.
I know what my video today is going to be.
Yeah, CBS had it too. So if you want one that doesn't have any markings on it, just FYI.
Wow.
But yeah, it was just I thought it was interesting also because for this is what a lot there's murder trials and all that kind of crazy stuff for Johnny and Amber, but this is more indicative of what happens across the country on a daily basis. It's smaller stuff, it's lower level crimes. I mean, yes, he could have gone to prison for like 2.5 to 5 years and would have to be a sex offender if he lost. But, not everything's a murder or a triple murder or Kyle Rittenhouse or the popcorn guy or Johnny and Amber. I thought that was an interesting part to it because these never get covered because who cares at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's such a small thing. It really, the only reason why there was coverage of it is because of who he is.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, so Israel, you're asking about how do they get discovery of the text on her phone? Civil case, we demand your cell phone and any and all text messages relating to this event and whoever you talk to about it. She actually also got, and she had to admit on the stand, she had withheld evidence in the civil trial, and she had refused to turn the phone over initially, and then finally, under threat of sanction, she had to, and it was imaged, and they imaged her phone, and then they, obviously they went through it and dug through everything. No, and why didn't anyone coach her? There's only so much you can do. You can ask them questions and help them get ready for it. But when you listen to this lady testify, she thinks she's clairvoyant. I mean, how much can you really coach a person like that? Yeah.
Well, she shouldn't have been surprised by the verdict then, I guess.
She should have seen it coming,
I'm sorry,
right?
guys, to run through it like that fast, but I mean, really, that's what it was.
No, but that's okay.
The second day was entirely a waste. But
really,
yeah. Also, people are asking who is Mario Batali? Back in at the turn of the century, the 2000s. It's weird to say it like that, but it was like him and Emeril Lagasse.
Yes,
those were the two big guys, and then Bobby Flay. Bobby, I put corn salsa on everything. Flay. Those were the big dudes.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he's not Gordon Ramsay, but Gordon Ramsay wasn't big here yet.
And so, yeah, so I have a little bit of his history for anybody that isn't familiar. So Food Network,
Yeah.
he had a show called on Food Network. He had a show called Mario, but from 1996 to 2004. They actually were planning to do a reboot of that show. They scrapped it
Yes.
because of the allegations against him. He
Yeah.
also previously had an ABC daytime show. It was a talk show called The Chew. Was removed from that because of the allegations. And then he also is behind, if you guys are familiar with the Italy franchise, he also was behind
Yes.
that and other upscale venues. He also sold all of his restaurant holdings in 2019. My guess is he probably didn't want to sell all of his restaurant holdings in 2019, but that was kind of a, like, you are going to be voluntold.
Not an awful year to sell your restaurant holdings.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, not bad year to sell.
You know what? That's also a good point. Yeah. Better to get out then than in 2020 or 2021, right? That's also a fair point. So maybe you turn out okay with that one.
Yeah. Well, Michelle saying another man canceled on zero evidence. He had a ton of allegations against him. It wasn't just this one. There were a lot of issues he's had. He had made public statements acknowledging, okay, yeah, maybe I wasn't the best about certain things, especially when he got liquored up. So there were a lot of women that had problems with him. So yes, this one, you're not an hour yet. I cancel her still. Yes, this was clearly BS. This one was clearly somebody, I'm not saying she was, being a gold digger, but she was being a gold digger. And, trying to hunt for something. But he had a lot of other ones that it sounds like he cut some checks and shut some people up. So this one was probably, he also, the NYPD investigated him for something in New York City that ended up being inconclusive. But it wasn't just this instance. It was a bunch of things at once.
Well, this goes a long way to rehabilitating his reputation because, if people can conclude, they must all be equally garbage. This is one of the things, right?
Well, and because this happened literally in the middle of Johnny and Amber, this can, even if he did some things that were scuzzy, this can help him out a lot. Or if he really is innocent, this can help him out a lot.
Yeah. But I do think that in terms of like all of the shows that he's been removed from, the fact that there are still other allegations that have spanned decades against him, and he has apologized for some of the other ones. So it sounds like they're not all false. At least from the apologies that he's put out there, whether that was like a calculation that he made to just try to make it go away with an apology, or whether that was a sincere apology because he had something to actually apologize for. Something tells me this isn't like the full exonerative sort of scenario that we were talking about. Like, if Trevor Bauer had a trial and then was exonerated, with these various allegations.
Exactly.
It seems like there's enough of a shadow that's been following him for a while that this particular case isn't necessarily going to do it for him, it seems like.
Well, I think it might, though, because most people don't know about his other allegations. So they're going to say, screw it, they must all be fake, too. Unless you've really been following him. And like you said, it actually does, and you're right, it does go back really far.
Yeah.
That's true. That's also
There's also a point here that can be made tangentially about just trial tactics and even appellate tactics for that matter, because you can run into the same problem as a lawyer on the trial level or the appellate level. Like if you have a whole bunch of great arguments, but some of your arguments suck, and you make the sucky arguments, it can kind of diminish the value of your whole case. So one of the ways I put it, like if you're on appeal, premise, there's 10 errors by the court below. Do you bring all 10 errors to the Court of Appeals? And the answer is obviously not necessarily, because maybe some of them are better than not. And if you bring garbage ones, the Court of Appeals might say, oh, they must all be garbage, because they're human beings, and that's how human beings think. And the same thing can happen at trial. So this is also one of the reasons that, this is the situation here, because, you look at, it's like one's garbage, it all influences. And by the same token, if one of them is great, they're all great. They must all be true. It's kind of like people think in categorical ways, and or they seem to, at least to some degree. So there's a note about trial and appellate tactics to help bring some legal education.
Yeah. I was going to mention too, if anybody happens to watch the trial, as far as people, viewers here, you're going to notice there's a lot of times where there's objections both ways, and the judge is overruling them a lot, where if you would watch this during a jury trial, they would be sustained. And that's simply because the judge, he's he knows what's going on. He understands, and he can, navigate through it better. He's going to be a little more impartial. He's a lot more educated as far as what's being trying to introduced, and then he's not going to be persuaded by emotion or any of the things typically attorneys are worried about when those objections come up. So when you're in a bench trial, things are a little more fast and loose with the rules than with the jury. So if anybody watching it ever gets concerned about that, that's why that happens.
Yeah. All right. So do you, having watched it, do you think that there could have been a different outcome if it had been a jury trial as opposed to a single judge?
I mean, yes. I mean, that juries are jurors, and, you're trusting, 12 rum-dums off the street, which, no offense, guys, but that's how it is at the end of the day. I mean, you're gambling off, which 12 yahoos you get. You hope that they're not complete lunatics, because, I mean, think about it. This lady said, yes, I'm clairvoyant. And, I mean, you got to hope you don't get some, essential oils lady who's like, oh, I'm an empath. I know she's telling the truth.
But then you could also have other jurors that say that's a bunch of nonsense. I don't believe that for a second.
I think in this situation, though, they clearly had that. They knew they were going to be able to present that evidence. I think it was a faster, speedier way to get to where you wanted to go. It cut out any risk at all. I think that they also had some experience with this judge. They knew about him, and they knew that he wasn't going to buy it. So I think it was fine. And I think a jury probably would have acquitted Batali also, but go for the easy one if you can.
Sure.
I don't blame them for doing that.
Yeah. Hey, Nate, how's it going?
Hey, how's everybody doing? Good. Hogue, you don't have your hat on. What's going on?
I know that's the chat has been on fire about Hogue and his non-hat.
Yeah.
People are like, I don't know who is this person. I don't
Once
recognize
every
this person.
6 weeks, I show up fresh from a haircut and I say hi to y'all. And I put the hat back on in the next stream, but I appreciate it.
Looks good.
Yeah, looks fantastic.
So Nate, we talked earlier about Trevor Bauer getting suspended for 2 years by the MLB. We had a good long discussion about that. All of us, it sounds like, probably anticipate that the MLB will have a hard time upholding that suspension because it's, number one, it's the longest suspension that the MLB has ever given to anyone, and number two, because of the fact that there are no criminal charges, no investigation going on for it. So what basis can they possibly really use to justify that number?
Don't they have the what's the clause that they have that trumps everything? The if it hurts the game, like there's like a clause they always cite. The and a benefit of the game or something like that.
Right. No, this isn't go to the game stuff. This is their domestic violence policy.
Okay.
Yeah. Moral turpitude kind of stuff. But yeah, and then Sean was just telling us about the Mario Batali trial that he watched earlier this week, and we were kind of talking about the what resulted from it, what came out on cross-examination by the purported victim. A lot of interesting stuff. Like she said that she is a clairvoyant. Thank you. Yes. But she couldn't see this one coming. So how good of a clairvoyant is she? I don't know, but it's so funny because it's like, we are all just taken up by the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial, but there's, you can have these smaller cases that don't really grab as many headlines, but you could really get some spicy stuff from these other cases. Super, very fascinating for sure. But anyhow, I was going to turn soon to the whole Blac Chyna versus Kim Kardashian case.
And we know Sean has to leave, right? So
yeah, I think I'm gonna step out right now while you're
talk about your channel.
Yeah,
tell me what you're doing.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, so guys, my channel's potentially criminal. I covered the Mario Batali trial this week, from beginning to end. It's on my channel now if you want to watch it. Like I said, if you watch Day One especially, you'll hear in the second half you'll get to hear this lady say all the crazy crap she actually said. I'm trying to work on getting the kind of the recap of that. Hopefully, get it done today. Nice. Also tonight at 9:30, I do a weekly stream, kind of covering a bunch of different topics. This will be one of them as well. So yeah, stop by. It'll be a fun time, and yeah, that's it. Really
sounds great. Link in the description below for sure. Sean. Thanks, Sean.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. So Anyhow, so let's talk about the Kim Kardashian lawsuit too. Have you guys looked into this one at all, the trial?
I know that China isn't spelled the way I assumed it was. So yeah, I've looked at a few things, Alita.
A few things.
I read through this monstrous complaint, which is pretty long, and it's to be honest with you, it almost reads identical to the JDAH case. It's a lot of parallels. Parallels.
Tell us, because I haven't had a chance to actually read the complaint itself. So I was going to go through some reporting on it and see what we can parse through that, and if we can use our BS meters as we parse through it. But this is much better.
Yeah. So essentially, her complaint reads like a domestic violence complaint. The same thing. So she's alleging that Rob Kardashian committed domestic violence against her. That was her allegations, and he was, and then there was revenge porn and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they were Rob Kardashian and Chyna were dating, and they had a show called Rob and Chyna. They went through the first season, and they were hoping to get season 2. So the producers at E said that, hey, we're going to do a season 2 of Rob and Chyna. They were going to do a season 2. So they went and celebrated. And now the celebration is where everything kind of went to shit. So they go and celebrate. During that celebration, to make a long story short, all of a sudden, Chyna has a phone cord wrapped around Rob Kardashian's neck, pulls a gun on him that she says was a joke, puts a gun to his head. So he's got a phone cord around his head.
Very familiar with that joke. That's a common
how we joke around all the time.
Yeah. So Kris Jenner, who is Rob Kardashian's mom, her boyfriend,
if you will.
Yes. So her boyfriend walks in on this scene of Rob, with a phone cord around his neck and a gun pointed at his head, and is like, yo, so that was the domestic violence incident. Now she says she was joking, and so there was a whole bunch of testimony about how, and during the relationship, she was the abusive one to Rob. She was the one hitting him. She was just, again, the same thing like the Amber Heard case. So she testified. So for most people don't know. So all the witnesses that they had said she was the abuser, not Rob. Then comes her testimony. So she gets on a stand and she bombs. So then she makes a motion to the court after her testimony is over, after it's about to go to the jury, says that the cross-examination was so bad that she wanted a redo of her testimony because she said that the defense attorney tricked her. So she wanted a redo. That was denied. And eventually the jury awarded everything to the Kardashians. They won it all. There was no defamation, no assault, no nothing. They won everything. But now she has a bigger problem. The big problem with Blac Chyna is she's a millionaire. And she, in the court, because she was claiming defamation, had to prove damages. So they asked her for her tax documents. This woman who's got 2 Lamborghinis that she just sold has said she hasn't filed taxes since 2018.
Oh, no.
Okay, again, no legal advice, but don't do that.
Life advice. If you're going to bring a claim against someone, make sure your taxes are in order, because if you're going to claim any kind of financial damages, that's going to come up. I've said this many times that, if you've got any kind of financial damages, that's the kind of thing that can come up in discovery. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a question that comes up in the initial consult with the attorney. So they wouldn't necessarily know before they've already, filed the claim. But then by that point, it's like, what do you do?
The IRS perks its ears up. So 15 years, you say?
Yeah, since 2018. So, but now between there, she's had her own another show on another channel. She had signed some other deals. She got a couple of Lamborghinis. She got all this money. So she's got everything going for her, but she hasn't filed taxes in 4 years. So now we got a possible criminal investigation on tax evasion for someone. And obviously, you guys may not know, she also then went and complained that her baby's fathers weren't paying her child support. That's why she was so poor, and that's why she was in the issues.
That's why she only has 2 Lamborghinis.
So she had to give up the 3 cars. Okay. So she had to sell the 3 cars because she was losing money because she said she's a single mother. But then come to find out, both the fathers are taking care. So both the fathers are custodial parents. The kids stay with the fathers like 6 days or 7 days out of the week. So she doesn't even take care of the kids, but she wants the fathers to pay her child support to be alive. So that's the Kim Kardashian Blac Chyna thing in a nutshell. She lost, and now what's her name? The patriarch of the family is now suing her for her defamatory stuff. So
you mean
Chris is
Jenner
suing her? Yeah,
is suing Blac Chyna.
Yeah, is now going to sue her for her defamation of their family. So Blac Chyna's still in it. So Blac Chyna's got criminal liability now. She's got
another defamation case.
Yeah, so it's also all going to hell.
Oh,
but she still looks good, So hopefully she she got that going for her.
Like she looks good.
Hey, but
so and the claim that the fathers of her children are not paying child support, that was made in the course of litigation, right?
No, that so people had found out that she had sold her 3 high model cars, and they were like, oh, well, why are you selling? So as an excuse, she was saying because she had to take care of her kids, that's why she had to sell the cars. So that's what happened.
Because my question is, I wonder if they can then sue her for defamation as well. I mean, because if there's an allegation that she's telling the public, well, hey, I had to sell this because they're not paying their child support. If they're saying, no, that's a lie, that could be potentially defamatory. That's something that can harm someone's reputation by saying you're a deadbeat dad that isn't paying child support.
That's true, but the story came out so fast, and then everybody found out she was lying, so it kind of really harmed her reputation because everybody goes find out. Well,
so.
The kids don't even live with you. Why the hell would they pay you child support?
Yeah, I mean, if the allegation was quickly followed up with "No, you're lying," then maybe there hasn't actually been any reputational harm. That's fair. That's fair.
Both her baby's fathers came out, and they were. It's interesting because she was bringing people together. Both her baby fathers came out and said, "Yeah, the kids live with us." She said she's actually a deadbeat mom. So. Yeah, so that case is a mess. It's a total mess. But the parallels to this case are essentially the same. She was trying to you can tell how in the case she was trying to manufacture abuse. So the reason why the E! Network said they didn't do the show, because that's what she was doing. She was doing a tortious interference defamation case. In other words, the tortious interference was because the Kardashians, after the domestic violence incident and her holding a gun to Rob's head, they were like, we're not going to work with this woman anymore. That's above board. She's wrapped the cord around his neck and put a gun to his head. Who jokes like that? So they went and said, listen, we're not working with her anymore. She can't even come on our show. that's too much. So they canceled the show.
Yeah. So what exactly were the defamatory statements that she alleges that the Kardashians made?
Her allegations were that the Kardashians went to E! and said because of the domestic violence that she portrayed on Rob, that was, that's why they didn't work with her. And that's why they canceled the show. So she was saying that domestic violence allegation was defamatory because Rob was the actual one
abusing
beating
her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so was there so she basically had to try to prove that Rob was committing DV against her in this trial.
Correct.
And so the jury was not convinced by that.
Because it was kind of like JD, where all the evidence, all the people that saw any violence, domestic violence, was on Kardashian's side. Even the people who didn't who didn't have any biases, like cops and all that stuff. Everybody was saying we saw her beat him, even though some of the camera crew. So it was obvious that she was the abuser. So she couldn't prove that her claim was false. Now Rob supposedly did some crazy stuff, but when you hold the gun to somebody's head, at that point it was just kind of like, did you really expect for them to continue on the show? Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard because it's a different reputational harm or a different source for the reputational harm. No, it's hard to prove that because she's the one that has a burden to prove it if she's the plaintiff in that case, to show this was the lie. They did it with actual malice because she's a public figure, and that this is the reason for the reputational harm. So, if she can't show that, and if they can just point to something else and say, well, here's a really big reason for the reputational harm, then sorry, you don't win. Hey, Bree, how's it going?
Hello. How are you guys?
Glad to have you here. We've just been talking about the Kim Kardashian, the Blac Chyna versus the Kardashians. Kim Kardashian was actually dismissed pretty early on in that trial. But Nate was giving us a really good lowdown. I was just going to go through through some headlines and through some reporting on it, and try to parse through any potential BS. But I'm so happy that Nate popped in to give us all of the details on it, because this has been such a fascinating case. Have you been able to track this case at all?
Yeah, I covered this case on my channel too. And so
there you go.
I actually went through the jury or not the jury instruction, but the jury, what is it called? Their decision.
The verdict form?
Yeah, exactly. I can't think of the name for some reason. I went through the verdict form, the verdict form on my channel. So that was very interesting.
Oh,
but it was a complete win for them, though, right? It was like,
well, yeah. So they actually found them that they did interfere with the contract, but they said that it wasn't so bad to stop Blac Chyna, if that makes sense. That yes, they did interfere. They did have a financial interest, but basically the show was going to get canceled anyways, whether they said something or not, is what they found. But Kylie was the most liable, from what I found. Yeah.
Why is that? What did she do?
It said that Kylie's interference was substantial enough to interfere. What was it? Let me pull up the verdict form to make sure I'm saying the right thing. But for the sisters and the mom, they got cut off pretty high up. So like their interference did not interfere with the contract. But I think Kylie got into interfering with the contract. So let me just look at it real quick so I can make sure I'm saying the right thing.
Well, in the meantime, I'll just point out real quick. We have less than 1,000 people that have liked the video. If you guys want to push this into the algorithm and get more content like this, where we're just chatting about all kinds of different cases, be sure to like the video. Let's see if can we get it up to 2,000? Is that possible?
How else will hairdressers know what videos to watch? But for you guys liking the videos, you must tell them that this wonderful content that's available.
Fair point. So anyway, and I see Nate here has pulled up it looks like the complaint.
Yeah, this is the original complaint. It was filed in 2017, but look at this. She's charging assault, battery, distribution of private materials. That's the supposedly he gave out a sex tape, domestic violence because of the harassment, intrusion into private affairs, false light, disclosure of private facts, defamation. But the defamation is obviously the key. And interference with contractual relationship, that's their tortious interference, and interference with prospective economic relations. So
interesting.
Good luck on that one.
So what about the whole revenge porn thing? Did that? I mean, I assume that it had to come up in the trial because that was an allegation here. Was that? Did they show that he had or hadn't done that, or what resulted from that?
Yeah. So for that, I don't know if Nate, did you want to answer?
No, I was going to say I think it should be on a verdict form, right? Because I know that they got a full wash, but I wanted to show how they answered that particular in the verdict form.
Yeah, they didn't put it on the verdict form just because the allegations against Rob got separated out into a different trial. So this one was only against the sisters and the mom.
Got it. Okay, there still has to be a claim against Rob to be heard. Do we know is that? I mean, I assume that's going to trial soon. Then probably.
Yeah, I don't remember the date. I'll have to double check with the court's website, but I don't think it's gone to trial yet. And they actually weren't supposed to bring anything up about her, the allegations and the pictures that he sent and all of that. And so that's why she was saying that she wants a mistrial because they included the restraining order from Rob, which included some of her photos. And they said it messed up her testimony. So I think she's going to try to appeal it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Some of it's funny because even some of the stuff in here, like the message, like you could tell, it seems like she was trying to manufacture some of the abuse allegations. Like she had here one time, like she texts somebody, Rob just hit me, and you can tell like she's trying to just put something on the record to try to make that argument that yes, this is what he did to me, that type of thing. And interestingly enough, I didn't know, maybe it's the California thing. She writes her complaint, but she doesn't put the exhibits on the back. They put the exhibits within the complaint. So like social media hacking, and then here's their exhibits listed within the complaint.
I've seen that.
I'm not used to that. I'm used to it being like separate exhibits, but
I see that in like IP copyright infringement stuff most often.
Yeah, I see it a lot
putting
in my
pictures
work.
next to each other.
So here it is, like number 35. See
Yeah.
where it says, Rob hit me, please come. Oh, wait, oh my God, this is supposed to be her to a friend. So she's using this to show that, even though, you know, most of this would be hearsay.
Yeah. I will say in California, when it comes to a civil complaint, you don't need to have any sort of exhibits or attachments on there. It certainly helps to prevent, you know, any kind of a motion to dismiss, or in California state court, it's called a demurrer. Demurrer. But it's which every single time I use that word, I laugh, because I think of my boss back in California that taught me, after like 4 years of practice in California, that it's actually not pronounced demurrer, it's demurrer. And he gave me he teased me quite a bit for that one. But anyhow,
that's a
I'm on tape. I'm in virtual legality
slight pronunciation difference between those two.
There was a demurrer.
Give me a break.
I know. No, he was like, are you pinkies out? Like what? Like demure? And I was like, I don't know. I've only seen it written. I'm like, whatever. I learned law in Texas. Okay. It talked different.
In Texas, it's demure.
Demure.
You gotta get that
Dyer
done.
But yeah, no, but it's so anyhow, but I always think back on that.
Look at this room. Is this just a messy room, or do you think they had a fight? Like, this is the picture of the room.
Honestly, it could be either. It also could have been an earthquake.
Wait, is your closet not supposed to look like that?
Right? Not supposed to.
Wait.
Well, I see some things knocked over. I guess that could be evidence.
What the hell is that pink thing on the floor? Is that a dress that's made of bubbles, or what is that?
No,
I never want you to ask
jacket.
that question while looking at a closet ever again.
That looks like a puffy jacket.
Oh, this is a bubble jacket. Yeah.
That is some bullshit right there.
Oh no.
Get one of these at home, throw it away right away.
LawTube Fashion Police coming this fall.
Fashion police. There you go.
Blac Chyna.
We need some due process from these fashion police here.
Summary
But
judgment
anyhow.
only. I'm Judge Dredd style.
I
Judge
think everybody knows
Dredd.
by now I'm the wrong person to man the fashion police. So, it's all good.
But also, Law and Lumber wants to know if we can take it easy on Rob here, because he keeps hearing about Rob and the revenge porn and the Rob and the potential DV.
Sorry, we didn't spend enough time in this episode talking about how Rob has so many views on his video, and he's a woodworker, and he likes to break beds with lumber or what have you.
Did you get today's front page in the New York Times where he's quoted
we got him in
extensively?
the Guardian yesterday. I don't know. Yeah, it's probably. I think they're broadcasting his video onto the moon tonight.
Mhm, yeah.
So
Washington Post is next.
see. Yeah.
Oh man.
There you go,
man.
Rob.
There you go. We're taking it easy on you. That's how it goes. But yeah, I mean, this is so fascinating, and just to see like how this has opened up like so much litigation that is going to be proliferating out of this, that I definitely want to be keeping track of after the Depp v. Heard case is over, because it sounds like it's like a chimera, right? Like this case is over, but it's like opened up so many other new lawsuits, and including tax fraud, and oh gosh,
It's reproducing.
Oh.
Life finds a way.
Yeah, crazy. So anyhow, let's get some more super chats here. Drew Bradley says, seeing Hogue without a hat is like a cartoon character not wearing their hat as always. Chris and Meg Griffin. Louis Belcher, anyone?
The Yosemite Sam. I like the comparison. Thank you.
Simple without a beanie, man.
Yeah. Or like imagine
What a
seeing
pull.
Tim Pool without a beanie. Like, what does he look like without the beanie? Anyhow, Tiffany Meshel says, I'm so happy the gang's all here. It's not the same without you this week. I hope we get to see everybody today. Thank you so much for doing this. Of course. Yeah. And I did I dropped the link in the group chat. So, as usual, as I do. So, so folks can pop in. But Objectionable Law, Ashley D. Harrison says, Alita, our hair and shirts are the same today. Twinning. All right. Hook 'em. Love to see it. And Leon Holmer says, off topic, can a pro se litigant testify? How would that work? Yes, you can, because you are also, you're not just the attorney for yourself, but you're also the party. So you are able to put yourself on
I think the question is who asked the questions.
Actually, I don't know about that because I've never seen it in action. Nate, do you know?
Yeah.
I've heard about it before, but I've never seen it in action. It's kind of like they go up there and give a speech. I don't know how they would do it, but it does happen though. It does happen.
Yeah, I'm in family law, and they testify. They just speak. I haven't seen it to where they ask themselves question, but I don't know because our family law court is a little bit more casual than like civil court. I would think.
I wonder if it would be improper if the judge just asked them certain questions. That seems like that would be improper.
In New York, the judge can ask questions just like any other attorney. Like I've been in situations where the judge stops and be like, listen, did this happen? It's that type of thing.
Yeah,
I've seen that too.
They can,
okay,
but it's never
yeah,
they try, of course they try not to, but
because the pro se litigants that I've seen have all been civil litigation where someone they basically have ended up settling the case. And those cases in particular were inmates in the California correctional facility system. And so, all of those cases that I saw when they were representing themselves were settled out of court at some point. So I've never actually seen it get to trial. So now I'm really curious. I really want to look into that. Zane wants to know, will you be covering the Manson trial when it goes to trial? Yes. However, it's in federal court, so there won't be cameras in the courtroom.
Damn it.
I read that
Ninth Circuit.
the Manson trial
Circuit's changing
a long time ago.
But not the district court. I don't think there's any district court.
No
that
district
has
court?
cameras. No.
Because I know they had an order. They were looking at put everything in
the circuits are going public slowly. And maybe everything else will soon.
Maybe. I sincerely hope so. I really, really hope so, because if this one could be live streamed, I would definitely want to be all over it for sure. I have done some videos on this case, and I know I plan to cover the development of this case after Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard is over. I've been talking a lot with Colonel Kurtz. I know she's been talking to a lot of people that have been involved in it. So I definitely want to be getting up to speed on that one as well. And especially because it's like there's also some overlap with this case. He's been such a boogeyman in Depp v. Heard. He's just been brought up as like this name that's like invoked as like, ooh, this whisper of a monster, this Marilyn Manson. There was Marilyn Manson music playing, and did Johnny Depp get drugs from Marilyn Manson? That it does like
feel that way.
Yeah, it does. And it's funny because like as someone who has never been one to follow his music and to follow his career. In fact, like I remember growing up, I kind of was a little bit afraid of Marilyn Manson. That's just the vibe, I am basic AF and I will own it. I'm all about pumpkin spice lattes and Ugg boots and kittens and puppies. But I do think that this is one of those cases where the aesthetic and the brand that he has that has been following him for a long time, that is, that he's really embraced. He's very countercultural and he's been very, what's the word for it? Very mindfully, I guess, countercultural for a reason, right? We need those kind of people in our society too. But it's one of those things that now that there's this kind of a case going on could potentially hurt him in terms of bias. And I'm very interested to see how that works out. And obviously I don't, I'm not one to say that we should just like, go with your biases. So I really would like to fight against that if possible. But yeah, anyhow, if there are no cameras in the courtroom, I would very much seriously consider going there and watching the trial myself and then doing daily recaps as well.
I was going to offer the proposal that you cover the Charles Manson trial while the Marilyn Manson trial is going on.
And then call it the same thing.
Yeah, just hit the robot that way.
Oh, no, not the same. But yeah, I would for sure strongly consider doing that. I can't say that I would guarantee that at this point because it's probably a ways away anyway, but yeah, definitely would consider. So Isaac Bruch's Wholesome Gabagool Art says Hatless Hogue is new lawyer unlocked.
Mr.
CVC says careful how successful you get, the libs will come after you. Well, I think we've got a good array of people that are both conservative and liberal that are following this case right now. And I think, it's a dream. It's a fair point that the bigger you get, the more people can can potentially come after you for all kinds of things. But I do think that, right now I really like the diversity of folks that are following so far. Z Seltzer says law talk with Mike covers pro se all the time. So yeah, we should probably talk to him about that. Maybe he knows a little bit better about the whole what happens when they actually testify for themselves. And I see in here, Red Eye Good is in the chat. I'm trying to find it here. Okay, what is going on with Manson? So he has a similar case to Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. And Rachel Wood, his former girlfriend, has made all kinds of accusations against him. She's also good friends with Amber Heard, and Marilyn Manson is also good friends with Johnny Depp. So there's a very interesting, parallel between the two cases. Because of very similar accusations that were made against Marilyn Manson. And so he also has a defamation claim against Evan Rachel Wood. So very interesting sort of companion case to cover right after this. Nate, did you want to share something?
Oh, no, that was just to make fun of the whole Tim Pool and the hat stuff. So
is this a
Tim
real
Pool
picture?
without his hat? Yeah.
Really? I have never seen that.
You've never seen him without his hat before?
No.
Oh, wow.
No, never.
So this is why people keep telling me that they thought I was bald.
Yes. They put it in his head.
I just like hats. I just like hats, folks.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. So, anyhow, well, I think for me, that about does it for all these subjects. But this has been a great sort of little bit of a break, a little bit of a refresher on the fact that there are other cases out there besides Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So I want to thank everybody that has popped in to chat today. We also had Sean earlier from Potentially Criminal. Of course, he had to dip out earlier, but also saw Rob in the chat. He's been super chatting at us while he's working. Shout out to Rob.
Rob is like everywhere. Every live stream, Rob is there.
Yeah. He really is.
Yeah.
He is.
I also have the jury verdict if you wanted to look at that real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Let's look at it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let me get these two super chats real quick. Dan Rodriguez says Rob allowed Hogue to go hatless. And Pulani Casey says, I represented myself against the Board of Registered Nursing in California. On the stand, I presented my evidence, and plaintiff attorney and judge asked me questions. I had one witness. I won. Case dismissed. So proud of myself.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Good job.
Congratulations.
That's a huge, I mean, I can imagine that must have been so intimidating also to be part of the legal process and all of the hoops that you have to jump through and to do that by yourself. So that is a huge thing just to go through that process, even without winning. But the fact that you were able to win it on top of that is incredible. Congratulations. Super proud of you. And you absolutely should be proud of yourself.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So yeah, Bree, let's go through the jury verdict. Let's see. You are sharing your screen, so I'll add it here. Okay, cool.
Okie dokie.
All right.
So this is just for Kylie Jenner. Most of the questions were the same for all of them. And so Nate was right. There was a wash on the defamation. They didn't really go into the liability there because they found that they all had a reason to believe that most of the statements were true. So I think Chris was the only one that had one check no or something like that. But as far as the questions for the interference with the contract, Kylie's went the lowest. So the first question was there a contract? And the answer is yes. Did Kylie know of the contract? Yes. Did Kylie's conduct prevent performance or make performance more difficult or expensive? Yes. For most of them, it stopped here or at question 66. Kylie's the only one that went down to 66. And then... Oh, here we are, 66. Did Kylie Jenner intend to disrupt the performance of the contract or know that disruption of the performance was certain or substantially certain? She's the only one that got a yes. Everyone else was no here, or they didn't get that far. And then Kylie Jenner, was her conduct a substantial factor in causing harm to Blac Chyna? And the answer was no. So she had most of it. But
she knew what she wanted to harm, and yet she didn't.
Yes.
Yes.
So
I think holding the gun to the head and probably that was the one that probably got 67 off. Because that's a good enough reason, right?
Well, because I mean, you have to look also to see if there's an intervening cause, right? And that's a substantial intervening cause for how Blac Chyna ended up losing her show with E. So and that is a perfect example of how the plaintiff has to check every single element of every single claim in order to win. Well, at least on that particular claim. So very, very great illustration of just how you can get most of them, but if you don't get one, you're out. You're out. So let me get these last couple super chats. Secret McSquirrel says the pros say he later says Mike covers our Sove sits usually. Interesting. So that's a whole different flavor even than that. Objectionable law Ashley D. Harrison says, I'm really bothered / worried about the future implications of the truth of the matter from these trials. Are there really scores of women crying wolf on abuse? Will real victims be affected by it? I don't want to believe it. That is
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I think you know what? Like, I think each case is going to be put forward on its facts. So, that's one of the reasons why we've tried to remind folks that this case is one that is, it could be potentially representative of a potential change in our cultural dialogue and the way that we see certain things, the way that we initially kind of respond to certain things, possibly. But when it comes to the law, each one is going to be treated on its own set of facts. And so, crying wolf on abuse, possibly. I think that those the folks that are going to be jumping to that kind of a conclusion are probably also the ones that are more likely to have jumped to those kinds of conclusions in the first place. They are probably the kind of people that just wanted an excuse to not believe someone. And unfortunately, there are those people out as well. Courtney Nichols says, I was terrified of Marilyn Manson when I was a kid. I was too.
Oh my God.
But whatever, I set aside my biases. This is still an individual. And just because I was afraid of him when I was a child doesn't mean that A, I'd be afraid of him now. But also that B, that he, deserves any different kind of treatment under the law. For various claims that have been made. So, we should try to be able to set aside our biases in any kind of a case. And then I'll play this game says, had a dream last night. Rob was my roommate. we're all your roommate at this point, right? Because we're living in your living rooms. It's law tube all the time. Oh man, that's hilarious. So anyhow, I think that about does it. Unless there's any last words from anybody here.
No, I did see an announcement that Bree is very close to 5,000 subscribers. I believe Sean from Potentially Criminals, very close to 5,000 subscribers. You know what I do here in Legalbytes. You know what you do there in chat. We can get them up to 5,000 subscribers. Like and subscribe to their channels. They're fantastic folks. They're on here on Legalbytes. They're coming onto my channel now. We're started streaming because Alita basically made me. And so we've got hangouts and headlines over there. That's been fantastically successful due to folks like you. And those folks, Potentially Criminal, Bree. I don't know if I've seen you over there yet, Bree. You've been on my
channel. On your channel yet. Okay. No, not on your channel.
All right. Well, let's just say aspirationally, she wants to be on my channel. So give her a like and subscribe. Yeah. No, so 5,000 subscribers would be a big deal. That's a big number. Go put that like and subscribe in for their channels. And of course, we're here on Legalbytes. She throws open the doors to allow us some place for sanctuary to talk about things like Major League Baseball players and famous celebrity chefs and others. So please
and reality TV stars.
Her channel. She deserves it. We're going to try. She's going to fly over 200,000 subscribers because of the great stuff she's doing at this trial. It's amazing. And it's because of people like you. So thank you first and foremost. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, please do that because Alita is the one behind all of that growth.
Thank you. And be sure to subscribe.
Hold on. Nate's just sitting there. Nate's being polite. Okay, Nate, I'm sorry. You're being too quiet. Go like and subscribe to Nate. Nate's doing objection games. Nate has come up with gamifying the objection system in a way that I absolutely adore, and I'm very upset that I couldn't make this morning. But he's doing games about this stuff. It's fantastic.
I know.
Like and subscribe.
I kind of feel bad about the game because the damn chat is like either beating us or tying us every week. It's just like we gotta win.
I know. I need to make it to your game at some point. I didn't have time today because I had some phone calls that I had to make. But also, you guys, if you haven't subscribed to Nate the Lawyer, he is literally 5,000 subscribers away from 200,000.
200?
Get him to 200,000 before you get me there. Let's do it. Let's do it.
200,000 subscribers.
Yeah, 200,000.
What's the weather like up there, Nate?
200,000 subscribers. Let's get in there. Let's get in there because you guys, like, if you haven't checked out his content, like, seriously, what are you doing? It is great. It is lovely. The same
game is fantastic.
The same brilliant, brilliant laugh that you see on all of these live streams. He's there. He's got his bright personality in all of his videos, and he's talking about stuff. He's going through media coverage of Depp v. Heard. He's going through, the objections game. He's going through all this stuff.
Out of his bed. I dragged him out of his bed on Saturday morning with no warning. And he showed up. He was the first person to come visit me on my channel when I did my first major stream. Nate said, "It's set. Do you know what time it is, Rick?" And he was still there. So go like and subscribe. 200,000 subscribers. That's a heck of a day, Nate.
I appreciate it. I hope to get there. But hey, listen, to be honest with you, I'm so happy where we're at now, though. Like this. To me, I think this is the best time to be a part of LawTube. Like, no matter what happens in the future, think about it. Like, look how many right now. You can't go a day without speaking to like how many different people. I'm on Natalie Lawyer-Chicks. We were on Natalie Lawyer-Chicks yesterday.
Yeah,
we're on hold.
I felt bad for missing that one.
Yeah. So it's now. I don't know. It's funny because they always say if you love what you do, it's not really work. But this to me isn't even work. This is just like hanging out with my friends, and I think that's what makes it so great,
yesterday.
Right?
I think I was on 4 yesterday. we're just having fun. We're just having fun, and we're finding a way to work around our practicing of law. At least I am between calls and things like that.
That's me too.
Email.
I got a big
fantastic stuff. Like and subscribe to all these people. I know it's pitch sessions, grift time. I know. But these people deserve your votes.
I do want to mention one thing. So we are doing this because people are mentioning it. We are doing in the chat. Yes, we are doing drinking Saturday night. We have the objection game. So people were like, we got to do a drinking game with this. So you don't have to drink alcohol. We were going to do shots, but Uncivil Law said he may die if we do shots.
I'm going to have a lot of
coffee, latte, whatever. Yes. And this time we will beat the chat because the chat will not beat us this time. We will beat the chat. So
Nate, they're using like TikTok videos. You can't beat the consolidated crowd information of the chat.
Very true. Very true. So anyhow, so I'm gonna do a catch up stream on those previous super chats from before. So you guys keep an eye out for the link for that. I will be going through that. And then otherwise we're gonna have some more content planned for coming out on this channel. I'm making a video on courtroom attire in this case, and generally speaking. So that should be a good video that'll be coming out. And then otherwise, let me get these we got some last minute super chats in here. You guys are wonderful. I love you guys. Objectionable Law Ashley D. Harrison says, I truly love and appreciate you all so much. I'm a disabled veteran and work from home, but you guys have made it so fun. Thank you. Well, thank you.
We love you too.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean it's such a great thing to have people, in the chat, super chats or regular chat, having people here to interact with as well, and just to have fun with, the panel is great too. And also the folks that are interacting with us through the chat. It's a really great way to talk about all of this stuff. And interact with folks.
And I do want to just shout out to Ashley. Ashley is amazing. She comes on my stream. She's been on. She's all around. Yes, me Ashley, too. We love you to death, and we really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for watching all this stuff. We really,
absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
And Afa Farabo says, Alita, you should call the non-trial lives palate cleansers or amuse-bouche, nod to the culinary theme. That is not a bad idea. I might actually have to use that a little bit. Some kind of palate cleanser name for some live streams.
So the rest of the world spins on.
Exactly. All play this game says not wrong. You guys are like my roommates. It is so fun. Lovely. I love it. Bubble says, I literally feel like you guys are my friends. When Rob's video went viral, I was advertising it as if he were my bestie. You guys have become such a lovely part of my life. Thank you all so much. I love it. This is so great. The Dragon's Treasure says, did someone say tea?
I know that this Panera Cup personally offends the Dragon's Treasure. I apologize. My wife brings me.
But yes, of course, there is always a link in the description below to thedragonstreasure.com. And if you guys want 10% off, you can use Amber Turd as a coupon code. Gives you 10% off. And it does also support the channel. We do get a small commission from it. And of course, it also supports a really, really great small tea company. The tea cannot be replicated by any of the others. Like I don't want to go back to the previous stuff after drinking Dragon's Treasure. I'm saying that legitimately. I was buying it before I had this coupon code, before I had any coupon code from Dragon's Treasure. But yes, all the disclosures are out there as usual, as required because I'm a lawyer. And
by the way, you're required if you're not a lawyer, but Alita does it best.
Thank you. And Camilla X3 says Johnny Depp is live on his YouTube channel. Be careful for that. Somebody flagged that yesterday, and it turned out to be a scam for a crypto scam. So right now, the likelihood that his attorneys are letting him or agreeing for him to have a Q&A session on any social media platform or in any fashion at all, social media or not, is very, very minimal, down to probably nil. So be wary of those kinds of scams.
I realize, Alita, I have one last pitch.
Okay.
I'm thinking that Hangouts and Headlines, we're going to have one in the next couple days. And I did know, maybe you noticed this already, that there's an insider article about some kind of famous celebrity that we all know, that talks a little bit about LawTube and the meteoric rise of somebody by the name of Alita and a channel by the name of Legalbytes. And I will tell you that this article is not terribly kind about LawTube or its prospects. So I am thinking that we might just do a Hangouts and Headlines to talk about more of the media and how they're treating things. They even have an Emily D. Baker quote in this article. So I'm thinking right now it's going to be Saturday, but to pitch my channel, if you're interested in that, law, virtual legality, Hangouts and Headlines, probably going to be discussing a little bit more. Some journalists taking a closer eye at our friend Alita.
Okay. All right.
Well, sounds like it might be news to her. I'll send you the article.
Yeah. Please do.
One quick question, too, guys. Have you guys Googled LawTube? Because there's like an actual like LawTube thing out there. There's like a website, everything. Like they have a.
Yeah, I don't care.
It's like a whole separate thing.
We're using it in a colloquial kind of way. So.
Well, they don't have a trademark.
It's purely descriptive. We fight it. Whatever.
Magda Masood says, "What's your thoughts on TMZ broadcast about Johnny that will not have his career back like Bill Gibson? Or do you mean what's his name? Gibson.
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson. I
like
do not
Bill
understand
Gibson.
Similarities in both situations.
Like Mel with a mustache trying to get back on the movie set.
My name is not Mel. It is Bill.
That's Bill Gibson.
Bill Gibson.
You could take my name, but you'll never take my freedom.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen that that bit by TMZ, but that'll be interesting. I mean, we really won't know until we come out of this at the end of the day, right? But it just seems like there's enough going out there with the social media memes to show that there's an interest in supporting him, and there is an interest in by people in the work that has been made by Johnny Depp. It's sort of seen a bit of a resurgence. So I would like to think that there's enough of a market there that someone is going to capitalize on it by wanting to work with him. That's at least what I would think, but I'm certainly not a Hollywood executive. So what do I know? Jay Watt says on second verse of the LawTube song I'm making for you guys. First verse is Hogan and Civil, and second verse is Nate and Rob. Nice. Very nice. Jim Silva says latte shots. I like it.
I
like it.
I like that.
I like it. Alrighty, well, that about does it. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you to all of my friends that have joined on the panel here. One more. Okay, one more super chat. Lexi Autumn Stab says, seeing AH's testimony shattering her public perception as a DV survivor makes me very curious how ER Wood sees her now, and if any differently. Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see how that all plays out in the wake of this trial. And what she decides to do, what Evan Rachel Wood decides to do for her case coming out of this. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that. But anyway, Rule got a Mean Girls reference in right at the end there.
You know what? I love Mean Girls. I don't know why I love that movie so much, but it's like such a guilty pleasure for me. I can watch it because it's
real. It is the real experience. It is the real experience of being a young woman in the United States. And Nate, let's hold her hostage.
How did you do that? He was behind the scenes, live on stream, doing that.
Sending anything, she will not go. If you want to keep her here, super chat, she will not go.
We gotta close this. We're gonna close this down. But anyhow, this has been lovely, and I thank all of you for joining us. And otherwise, I will see you guys in